Good afternoon, Ms. Sims.
Good afternoon.
Welcome. I was looking at your resume and I'm glad that you agreed to come in for an interview. I know that you saw that we have an open science position, and as you know, a lot of pieces are moving around all the time, and so we're just trying to figure out the best people we can find and then match those with the opening positions that we have. So I saw that your education started at SFA. Just tell me about what that program was like. Was there something that you thought was particularly valuable in the education program there?
My undergrad is from SFA for music, and I went to become a band director. SFA is a great college for band directors because it's in the middle of East Texas, so they specialize in military and corps marching, like some of the high schools that are around here. They have a lot of good contacts with all the other band directors in the area and work well with them. So it ended up being a great fit for the skills that I needed, and then also all the people that are associated with the college helped me get my first job.
And so after having done band for so long, what led you to science?
I've always been interested in science. While I was in high school, I considered going into engineering at A&M, and it took all upper level sciences and maths. I'd also played instruments my whole life, so I decided it was a hard choice between the two, and in May of my senior year decided to switch from my plans going from A&M to going to SFA to study music instead.
Okay. And so I know we don't have a band here, but there may be some opportunity for you to have some music appreciation classes. Would that be something you might be interested in addition to science?
So within the 7 classes, some of them would be music and some of them would be science classes.
We have a kind of a rolling elective system, and so we have a certain offering to the students, and that some classes we offer certain years and certain classes we don't, and music appreciation comes into the rotation about every other year, and so it would probably be about 2 sections of the 7.
Okay. I would be more than comfortable teaching a music appreciation class. I've taught as a band director for junior high and high school, and then but my main interest for music is teaching beginners. So being able to start them from scratch on different instruments. So there may be some possibility of I'll have to look at what you're wanting to offer, but if we could possibly tweak the class and bring in some instruments, then I might be able to teach some beginning piano or guitar, or so we could add that to the they can really appreciate music by actually learning to do it themselves.
Okay. Well, we do have a set of guitars from a previous year, and we might be able to get those working and serviceable.
We could definitely talk about what some options would be.
Okay. One of the things we want to make sure that is really clear, if you do come to work for us at East Texas Charter, part of the job is going to include UIL sponsorship, and so every teacher is going to be coaching at least one academic UIL event. Is there one that you feel like you would gravitate more towards at the high school level? Maybe you have some experience.
That was one of the questions that I was going to ask you, actually, was how you share the responsibilities for some of those things, if they're assigned or volunteer, or how that works. So I'm glad that you brought that up. But the last couple years at the high school level, I've coached math, number sense, calculator and science competitions for UIL and another organization, but the previous 7 years was at the junior high.
Okay.
So
Was
I
it
have,
TMSCA?
yes.
Okay.
So the junior high TMSCA events are the same, but just with simpler skills. And then, so the last 2 years has been at the high school. So I would love to coach. Out of those 4, I would probably pick number sense and calculator would be the ones I would rather do.
Okay. I think the current people that are currently teaching calculator and number sense would be relieved to hear that news. So
Probably.
we've had some people in a stopgap position for a little while, so it would be nice to have someone that knows what they're doing in those positions.
I really like working with those students because it's taking the math skills, normal math classes, and then pushing it to, like, especially the mental math in number sense. It's just tricks. It's solving a puzzle. So working with the kids that like to do those mental puzzles and challenge themselves that's kind of the kids I gravitate towards. So.
Okay. Speaking of puzzles and skills, like, what is your teaching style, if you had to describe, like, your teaching style?
Typical day or week in IPC has been, and even in the lower grade, 6th grade science, where I try to do something at the very beginning that's going to at least get them aimed in the right direction, some sort of focus, attention grabbing kind of demo of some sort. And then we spend a day and a half where there are stations in the room where they go through vocabulary and different concepts, and they're trying to, half of the stations are input, so I'm getting some information and trying to do something with it, and then the other half are output, so that I'm trying to figure out, can I actually show somebody that I know what I'm doing? After that, we take some notes. So I haven't told them the answers before.
Okay.
They've had a chance to kind of explore it a little bit, and then take some notes, and then usually do labs after that, where we can practice using the skills and maybe see them hands-on. I try to spend as much time as I can in the lab or in some sort of hands-on activity that I can,
Right.
and then before we end up actually testing.
Okay. What is your favorite subject to teach that you've ever taught?
Beginning flute.
What do you think it was about that one in particular?
Well, that's my main instrument. That's my the one that I know most about. But it's usually small class, so there's 14 to 20. I like that it's a constant challenge, pushing different people, and then some of them take it and run with it. I've had beginning flute players that could do things I couldn't do until I was in college. Scales that they learned and things that they did that they just, nobody told them that it was hard, and so they just went with it. And so I like that kind of student and that age group. And so beginners, they haven't developed too many bad habits on their own yet, so that's a good place to be.
One of the things that is, I think, very different about our school is our involvement with parents. So each week our teachers are required to make a certain number of parent phone calls, and we try to do it in a way that is, we try to have a certain number that are at least positive. And so parents hear from our teachers more than just when their children are in trouble or when they're behind. And so I think it helps to foster a good community feel. What kind of experience have you had as far as involvement with parents in the past as a teacher?
The districts that I've been in, you know, I usually have 150 to 175 students at a time. So it would be a good change, a welcome change, to have more intimate, like a smaller group that had, where you had more time to be able to focus on the good things and not just trying to put out fires the whole time. Because you know, by the time you make it through a list of that many students, unfortunately, it's hard to get to the good ones and spend as much time as you'd like to there.
Our students are pulled in a lot of different directions. Challenges that they face at home, struggles that they've had in the past from school, not knowing what they want to do. What do you feel like for this generation are some of the biggest challenges that they're going to face?
Can you repeat the question again?
So just looking at this generation, so high schoolers, what do you think some of the biggest challenges that connect to school are that they face right now?
I think they connect to school. I think personally, a big challenge for them right now is being distracted, and everything happens very quickly. Information is gotten very quickly. You know, TikToks only last 30 seconds and you go to the next one. Maybe they haven't been bored enough to be able to, you know, focus in on something that can't keep their attention for more than, you know, 30 seconds at a time. And so being in the classroom and constantly worrying that your phone's going to go off, or what am I missing? What do I, what's the next thing? Who just texted me? What's happening when I can't touch my phone and I'm not connected?
Have you heard what the cell phone policy is here?
No.
We have it set up where the students, they can be on their phones in the morning and in the afternoon when they're waiting on their ride, but once they hit the door, it has to be off. And we don't mean just like blank screen, it's like powered off, down, and it doesn't come out, and it can't be seen, and it doesn't get turned on until they hit the door on the way out. And so if
not even lunches.
No, not even lunches. And so
wow.
It does some of that forced boredom training, I suppose. Not to say that you know, our classes are bored, but it takes away that instant stimulus and that, I think, desire to constantly be checking emails or texts.
That would be a huge change from the battle of take out the headphones. I need your, you know,
right.
Please put that away. Yes, I can still see it under the desk.
We have our own fair share of battles, but that's not one of them.
Well, that's great. That's probably one of the biggest battles that I've tried to conquer on my own. Is if the whole district is not doing the same thing,
right?
Then, you know, you're either the bad guy or you're the, you know, well, I do it in so-and-so's class. So it's really hard to try to come up with rules that are just in your classroom if you can't have
Consistency
it as consistent.
is important. Absolutely. Excuse me, just one moment.
Still.
So when you think about your own educational background, and that can include high school or college, what is Who was your favorite teacher and why?
Miss Pilling in my freshman geography class in high school.
Okay.
And which I am not a history person, so that's really, you would thought that it would be math or science or music of some sort. But Miss Pilling was a college professor that retired and decided to teach high school for some crazy reason. And she had been to every country in the whole world except for 2 at the time. And this is the, it's been a while since then. And but in her room, when you walked in, there were pieces of clothing or statues or pictures or from every country in the whole world. And so when she was teaching, it wasn't get your book out and open to page such and such. She would walk around the room and then pick up a little figurine or something and say, hey, have I told you the story about the time that I was in such and, wherever it was at this particular temple, and oh, this is what we ate, and this is, what it was like to be there, and it always ended up being some crazy, funny story of mishap or, miscommunication or something, but it was personal, it was a personal connection to and her excitement about travel, and that got me really excited about travel. That but making a notebook about the food and the languages and the religion and the history and then obviously the names of the cities and the countries, which I've had teachers that would have just handed you a map and said, here's the names of the cities and the countries.
That sounds a lot like my geography class.
So no, she was amazing, and so I tried to be like Miss Pilling when I grew up, and have that same love for science and have that and music or whatever you're teaching,
right?
And have personal connection and try to show them why I love it so much, and then hopefully they can take a little bit of that.
Awesome. What is one of the greatest successes you've had in your teaching?
I don't think that you know about those necessarily as they're happening. I think the ones that come to mind are the ones 20 years later, when you find out that you are still somebody that they consider somebody that meant something to them, that changed their life in a certain way, that led them to a love of something that they didn't know about, that so that really the make a difference part, the reason why you go into teaching anyway. So the ones that have come back 15 and 20 years later and
right.
I still remember learning to play the clarinet, or now my kids are in the doing this math class, or I just tell them about the time we did the crime scene investigation, or something like that you're like, okay, this is really, I am doing something that's going to affect future generations and have a lasting impact.
Right. How do you handle students with different learning styles in the classroom? For me, the kids
that are outside of the box thinkers, the ones that finish too fast, the ones that make the crazy pun that nobody else in the room gets, the kid that tries to teach the class for you, those we've labeled GT, thinkers. I do really well with those students because that's the same kind of thinking and we have a lot in common
Okay.
in that, and so being able to differentiate towards in that direction with pushing it further and deeper and well, what if I change this one aspect? What would that happen to the big picture? If I changed what if I added this to the problem? Then what would we do about it?
Right.
Those kinds of questions come very naturally to me because that's where my brain goes for those. Other, I can see how in a room of other kids, having one or two of those would be very frustrating because they finish too quickly and
Right.
they don't. And then what? And then I can't keep them busy, and so I'll just give them more work.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy having those type of kids in the room because there are a lot of things in my room like have you ever learned how to do a Rubik's Cube? Have you learned how to, would you like to be able to write in Japanese? I have a book on that. Here's a sign language dictionary. Here's a, do you know how to do Sudoku puzzles? Do you know how to do these? And push them in a lot of different directions where, what do you want to learn how to do next? I think my struggle and where I would where I've tried to focus on professional development is the other side of the spectrum, where I've already asked, okay, I want you to try to draw this, I want you to put your hands on it, I want you to describe it to me, I want you to, we've tried it backwards, forwards, upside down, every way that I could, think to explain it, and the blank looks still, and that's probably my biggest struggle in teaching is I don't know what I don't know what else to do to help you. So let me go find down the hallway and find somebody else and see if they could explain it differently, or go across the hallway, or so I guess that's why it's good to have a team.
Right.
But within the classroom, I think there's a lot of ways that you can differentiate, and the kids don't realize that that's happening. Putting kids strategically in the room together, adding copies of things into different places, or augmented pages that they don't know about, or so even within the stations, those are all nobody knows what page that they actually got.
Right.
They just do the assignment in front of them, and they're good.
So you've mentioned stations a few times, and we don't have a lot of experience here on this campus doing that at the high school level. Do you think that will what would that look like? Do you think that would be successful here at the high school level too?
Sorry, I've had success in the high school with it because there are some students that want to work by themselves and they just want to get it done. And they want to get it done as quickly as possible, and they know all the right answers, and they want to go from station to station, and they want to be done. And then I steer them in a different direction. But their work is done, and I like to check those boxes off. It also works because I have, if you want to work with someone else, and you can buddy up with someone that will help you get the work done, then you can go around the room with them, and you're kind of a peer tutoring situation self-motivated peer tutoring situation. But one of the stations is where I am,
Okay.
and that is usually Organize It, where there's graphs or vocabulary or sorting of some sort that I tell them there's not a lot of opportunity in class to get my attention that says, hey, I need help
Mhm.
without other people knowing it. But if you can present that table as, look, there's just 2, maybe 3 of us here, and if you sit down and you organize everything, look at me and go, look, I did it, then I stamp your book and you're good, right? And you're good. But if you sit down and start moving the things on the table and look at me like, is that it? Is that right? Especially, I think, in high school, you need an opportunity with the teacher to be able to say, I don't understand what's going on.
Right.
And I need your help. And without losing face. And junior high and high school, it's difficult to do that. I don't want to ask not everybody wants to ask the question. So if you have some time to be able to do that, and because everyone else is in stations, I do. The other people don't know what's
Mhm.
going on. And get my attention then. Say, I don't understand. I need help with this. I don't. Then I think they appreciate
Okay.
that part of it. Not everybody likes to draw,
Right.
but not all the stations are for everyone. And so stick figures are fine, but some people, that's the only one they want to go to. So I think it's still important to try to hit it from every angle that you can and give them a chance to explore it.
Okay.
Even at the high school level.
There are a lot of teachers who are trying to find a change for many reasons. There are several that are leaving education altogether, and I want to get your input. Like, if you were in charge of education in Texas, what is one thing that you think, if I could change this, I could help those teachers stay on?
Mm-hmm. And it's just one.
Just pick one.
One thing. Between you and me, I don't think that it's salary is the answer, because we've always agreed to do this job for other reasons than the salary.
Right.
So the teachers that have been teaching for 20 years, 30 years with low salary, they're not suddenly deciding that that's the reason. If I had to pick one, it would be the state assessment system, and looking at that in a way that is less frustrating, not only for the teachers but the students themselves. And I understand the accountability side of it, but there may be a point where we're doing more harm than good, and there are a lot of people working on that answer, I'm sure, but I think a lot of the frustration in time management, the amount of skills that I need to cover in a certain amount of time, even at the high school level, I have to be able to do this before I graduate. Am I ever going to get there? I don't test well, but the rest of the year I do well in class, and I work hard, and I try to do what I can. But
so this position that's available, it looks like it's going to be in some non-STAR tested subjects. Is that exciting for you to get out of a STAR tested subject?
I have not taught STAR tested subject since 6th grade science, and so the freshman IPC classes, physics is not a tested subject. So for the time being, I would be very happy in IPC and physics, and to let your other science teacher take care of the biology part
Right.
of that. That's a very difficult test, and of all the sciences, the strongest ones for me are physics and chemistry.
Okay.
So that's kind of where physical sciences are.
Right.
where I am.
Well, short of being able to change the state assessment ourselves, we do have to work within that system still. And so it's a matter of how can we best serve our students and still play by the rules. And so one of the things that we do here, since we're such a small campus, is we do help each other out. And we only have one biology teacher, but is there how do you see that you could support her in getting her students ready for that test so that she doesn't feel all that pressure herself?
The one of my strongest assets, I think, is the way that I approach UIL testing and any other testing that we've been given in the past, and that's very analytical and very systematic. And so looking at what exactly has been tested, how often has it been tested, in what ways, what do those questions look like, breaking down that information on a UIL math test or a biology test for an EOC. This is where we have to get them, here's the bare minimum.
Right.
So, if I could just learn 15 things, if that's all I knew, is that enough to get me where I need to be? So for the kids that have tried, they're on their fourth, try on a biology test. We don't need to know the entire year of biology. That's just very overwhelming.
Right.
But breaking it down and finding what are the most important things, that's something I'm very good at.
The students that come to us for a variety of reasons. We only have a high school setting, so the students have gone through another system until 8th grade, and some of that has happened at homeschools, some of that has happened at some of the area junior high systems, but if you're in the Longview district, some of the students are afraid to go to big bad Longview High School, and so they're looking for a 2A instead of a 6A, and so but for some of them, they've gotten into trouble and they are looking for a fresh start, or for their peers not to know what happened. And so we get students for a lot of reasons. One of the biggest challenges, though, on their success has been not only for academics, but some of the students have never passed a STAR exam in their whole student career until they get to us. And we're able to change that once they come to charter. We get them to where they need to be in time to graduate. But some of that is not academic related. Some of that is lack of self-confidence and just having lived in a system where it's okay to fail, or they have come to believe that is all they will ever do. So how can you help restore that confidence in those kids that have struggled over and over and over?
I try to use growth mindset as in every part, for the UIL, for the music, for the science. Sometimes looking at the entire test is too much, or that goal is just too big right now. And if I have an all or nothing attitude towards I either failed it and I am a failure, or I passed it and I'm not, that's that they're not seeing any kind of degrees of growth and degrees of success. And so I love the part where we go, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, but then it doesn't happen. So then what?
Mm-hmm.
But I can do a little bit more than what I did the last time, or I can, this week I'm gonna get this many out of, 20 or this many
Right.
out of, and then next week I'm gonna build on that, I'm gonna build on that, and I'm gonna keep getting better. Those smaller successes, I think, are key for any of those subjects, because looking at an 80 question number sense test is it's too much. But 10 questions, let's work on those 10.
Okay.
And go and start there this week.
What extracurricular activities have you been involved in as a teacher or sponsor, other than academic UIL?
So, goodness, that's a lot. Chess club, and part of that is from chess puzzles from the younger grades, but then running a chess club after school for anybody that wanted to come and play and learn. And then having learning how to do a Rubik's Cube. A lot of the kids in the all the way through high school, really excited about learning how to do that. And Rubik's will allow you to borrow 600 cubes at a time from the company and then send them back. So building mosaics out of those and having the kids come in and design their own and build that. Robotics competitions with the younger grades. Going to a lot of TMSEA. Then TAME is Texas Association of Minorities in Engineering. And so there's a math test, there's a science test, but then there's a engineering problem that the students are given.
Right.
And so they have a certain amount of time to solve the problem as a team and go from there and compete at a state level. State science fair projects from 6th grade and going on to the Texas State Science Fair. And then music on top of that.
Okay.
So
You've been busy.
there's a lot. But again, those are things that are, hey, how can we push this a little bit further?
Mm-hmm.
How can we find the kid that's interested in
Extensions of your classroom.
Yeah, I'm always looking for some sort of extension that we can do.
We don't have any team sports here at East Texas Charter, but we do have individual sports. So that for us is golf and tennis, and depending on the year and interest, a track team. And those positions are open fairly regularly. And so would you be interested in becoming a coach of any of those sports, or maybe coming on as an assistant, given that we do pay a stipend for those positions?
We would have to discuss scheduling for those things, because in my experience, a coaching position like that, between practices and competitions and travel, it's a lot of time, and family time is important at my house. And so especially with the added competitions that we've already discussed, coaching a sport or assisting a coach may be more than what I can add into my schedule, but
okay.
We could look at that on an individual basis.
I will tell you that while we do require you to sponsor a UIL event, the number of tournaments that we enter is much fewer than most schools of our size. So we do attend the district meet, and then obviously if we advance, go on to area and state. But before that, we only have about 2 invitational meets usually a year that we'll participate in. And that's for a few reasons. One is that a lot of our students that are in UIL academics have never done that before, and overwhelming them with a whole lot of practice meets is a little counterproductive for what we're hoping that they're going to get out of it. And what we're hoping they're going to get out of it is, some have said things like, I didn't know I could do UIL. I thought that was for the smart kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if that helps in your consideration, but it's not every other weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm used to usually doing at least once a month with the competitive teams. So we could look at our schedule and
Okay.
see.
now it is a possibility that if you wanted to attend more with your particular event, that's certainly possible. Sometimes our journalism groups will go to an extra tournament or two just to get them some extra practice that they find beneficial. When you were in college, what were some of the extracurriculars that you participated in yourself?
One of my favorites was sign language. As a music major, you don't have to take a foreign language, so I took that as an purely elective. I took swimming because it was I was interested in learning how to do it better, but also felt like the exercise and being in the pool every day would be good for mental health and
Okay.
stress. And then right before we were married, my husband and I took a ballroom dancing class together. And so our first dance at our wedding was spectacular because we had both been to ballroom dance class for a semester, and so that was a lot of fun. I wish I remembered more of that.
Sometimes you're going to have to be out for professional development days or for personal reasons, and so we do ask that you would keep some plans available that would be just ready to go in a folder.
Mm-hmm.
If someone had to take over your class. Do you have any experience doing any substitute work in the past yourself?
No, other than we've covered for each other. You know, I'll during my conference I'll cover
Okay.
you, and so I can see what a very difficult job it would be to walk in and say, I don't know these students very well, I don't know this subject
Right.
very well, but I'm in here to get us through the day, and
Right.
we're all gonna survive and hopefully maybe even learn something. But no, not personally.
I asked for a couple of reasons. One is because I think it helps if you've been through that to know exactly what you should put together for those people. But I imagine you have experience putting together substitute plans over the years and several different subjects. But the other reason I ask is because we are a small school and we don't have a big budget for substitute teachers. And so when one of our teachers has to be out, we do share the burden to take on those classes during the day. And so it would not be uncommon for every week or so, you'd have a couple of classes that you'd have to cover for another teacher. And so we just ask that you're considerate and share your plans if you have to be gone with the other teachers that are going to take your place, so that your kids are best served and that they're not stepping into something as a teacher that is uncomfortable.
So what is your typical class size?
So our average class size right now this year is 14, and so
wow.
we do have smaller classes than the other schools in the area, and that is largely due to the fact that we don't spend a lot of money on those team sports, for example, and so we can afford to have a little bit more staff per student, and which I know that the other teachers in the district really appreciate. And also we hear that pretty frequently when the students come in to interview from the parents, that we always ask, have you heard of East Texas Charter, and what have you heard? And they're like, well, I'm excited about small class sizes, and so that comes up very frequently. So
there's a lot of benefit to that.
I think the largest class in the district currently is 17.
Wow.
have you ever been involved in some sort of community service connection between the school and the city at all?
Between the school and the city.
Or just community in general, like community service overlaps from the school outwards?
Some of our teams have used a day to do a service projects at different places, or food drives during the fall, scheduled outreaches from the school to the community, nursing homes, kind of a tree, Christmas tree,
Right.
kind of idea.
Has that mostly been done through clubs and organizations, or?
Some of it is school-wide, but things like student council, leadership organizations within the club, within the school,
Right.
have taken care of some of that.
Our students do have opportunity to participate in community service. That it looks different each year, but we work with some local organizations to give back, and so sometimes, depending on the year, we'll send a group of students to go read to the kids in the younger grades, or we've worked with one of the local equestrian centers that offered therapy through horses, and so they worked in that regard, and we have done some of the canned food drives and similar kinds of things that you were naming, but that is something that some students will be out for occasionally, especially in the spring, and so it is something that we can encourage in our students to participate in if they show that interest, and so it's just a neat opportunity.
I think that's amazing. I think presenting that as a responsibility of being a member of the community, that all the people in the community, whatever their skills are, can use some of those for the benefit of others. If I'm good at building things, then how could I use that for the community?
Right.
And finding a way to connect. Not only do I have to raise money or organize something, but whatever it is that you're gifted in, then if you could figure out a way to help the greater good around you with that, I think that's amazing, and as a responsibility of being a member of the community.
Having smaller class sizes does lend itself to some other advantages too. We have a mentor program, and so there are about 12 students per member of the faculty, and so if we one of the things we do is each year we divide up the students among the faculty, and we each get to select students from the larger pool, and it's almost like the NFL draft in some ways, and so we're competing with each other. Oh, I wanted that one. Oh, you got him first. And so the culmination is we are able to meet with that group of 12 students and have some conversations about difficult things in life that are conversations that don't normally come up in a group setting in a classroom. And it is also a chance to see for our students that there are some connections among the teachers. There are people there that are looking out for me in different ways, and so we tell our students that you should find someone that you can go to, an adult that you have a little bit higher level of comfort speaking. Obviously, it's still going to be professional and above board, but it's just a different level of conversation and connection than what you normally see in a classroom. So connected with that is also something that we have every few years called Skills for Life.
Mm-hmm.
And that is with about the same amount of students, but that rotates. Mentor groups will rotate from classroom to classroom, and we open up a time period for 30 minutes in the day for about 2 weeks at a time. So there's a rotation where these same group of students are going to come to you for 30 minutes a day for 2 weeks, and you teach them something that is important for life. And so
Okay.
we have it's a pretty eclectic mix of skills that have been chosen by the teachers over the years, but we have had things in the past such as how to change the oil on a car, and how to change a tire. We have had
I don't know how to change the oil, so I could sign up for that class.
a
Tire, yes.
2 weeks on learning how to play chess. We have had how to get stains out of clothing and how to do washing to maximize the benefits there. We've had basics of cleaning and electricity. Is there something that comes to mind for you of like, I really wish that I could teach my students this skill, or that you have experience above maybe your peers?
Wow. Hmm. Goodness. There are. Trying to think of one that would be like more of a necessity than just as a hobby, or hobbies. That would be okay. You
Yes.
named chess.
Right,
So,
I named chess.
the so along that line, I probably have too many hobbies that you don't have time to get to all of them.
Okay, that's fair.
The definitely as much as you would like, because I think the actual hobby is learning new things, and so
How to become a lifelong learner?
how to become a lifelong learner would
Okay.
be a good one. But arts and crafts is a big one, and so
I don't think we've ever had that one. I think that would be a good opportunity for our students.
so crocheting, embroidery, sewing. I'm not very good at drawing.
Okay.
But
we won't sign you up for that one.
But being able to knit or crochet a blanket, or maybe we could how to stitch back the teddy bear that came open, or
Okay.
the shirt
Right.
or something. Put a button on. Maybe that could be in the
Okay.
same category.
Well, I know you have another point, and I appreciate you coming in, especially on a day that you've already been working. So I appreciate your time, but I want to give you a chance to ask any questions that you have about the job or the district before you go.
Okay. Well, you covered one of them, and that was how there are a lot of extras in a high school,
Right.
yearbook and cheerleading and different events and things, and so it sounded like those things are for you. I would sign up for those, and those would not be signed up for me, kind of situation. So am I hearing that
For everything
correctly?
except academic UIL, yes.
Okay, so those were optional things for a teacher that could get involved
Correct.
as they were. How do the duties around the campus, car duty,
Sure.
or those type of things? How do you divide up that amongst the teachers?
Our workday starts at 7:15 in the morning, which is earlier than most of the other districts in town, but we also into the school day a little bit earlier too. And so your duty would end at 3:45, except on Fridays you get out about an hour early. But within that time, you are required to be at certain duty stations, and that rotates. It changes about once to 6 weeks, and so those would include, watching the students as they go out into the parking lot and making sure that they're safe getting into their rides, to changing the filters in the ice pitchers, and making sure that the phones are disinfected. We have a pretty long list, so
Okay.
some of them include like grounds and maintenance. We don't have custodians on our campus, and so we all contribute to that effort, and so that some of those duties are shared in the list of duties, but those you're given time during the week to take care of those, and some of them are assigned on a particular day. Maybe you will go out and use the leaf blower and blow off the golf greens on Thursdays, for example, but
Okay.
it would all be part of the school day.
And those are assigned by
Assigned,
admin.
correct.
Okay. I have never blown off a green with a leaf blower at a school before, but all right. Okay. Yeah, I think that covers it.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming in, and we will get in touch with you and let you know, and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, thank you very
Thank
much
you very much.
for the opportunity.
Have a great day.
Thanks.